This is the video for Activity 1, Practice 1. In this video, we're going to be going over how to create a numbered list, copy a repeated cell pattern, and use a cell reference in a mathematical equation. So we'll start off with our instructions. We'll just go down a little bit by bit. I have some practice activities for you guys. So we'll start with practice 1A, and that's creating a repeated list of the number 1, okay, and we'll make 10 iterations or repeat the number 1 10 times. So in Excel, when you want to create a number, we'll go to our data spreadsheet here, okay. We can click any cell we want, have a practice 1A column, okay, so if you just type in 1 and click enter, you'll recall from our Excel familiarization video that when you highlight a cell or you select a cell, there's this green box at the bottom right hand corner. So we're going to hover over that until we get a black plus sign. From there you can just drag and then we have the number 1 is copied, okay. If you notice, right, we've got 10 cells with values in them. A cool thing that Excel does is at the bottom, it will give you an average, a count, and a sum. These are kind of like 3 general functions that you can do in Excel, but they will always show up at the bottom and they will auto-populate for whatever cells you have highlighted. So we can double check that we have 10 iterations by looking at the count. If we wanted to sum them up, we could look at how much each cell's value adds up to. We can also see the average, which all of them is 1, so they should all equal 1. Okay. For practice 1B, we want to create a numbered list that increases by an interval of 2. Okay, starting at 0 and ending at 10. So when we work, we can, obviously this is creating a repeated number. If we want to quickly create a pattern in Excel, we only need 2 numbers. Okay, so if we're starting at 0 and we go to 2 and we want this list to increase by an interval of 2, we would highlight these 2 values, hover over the green square, and then you can see as I drag my cursor around that there's a little value in a gray box. Okay, so that will automatically populate and tell you what value you are ending on if you click and drag the pattern, pretty much, right? We could do this if we wanted to count by 10. So if we were starting at 10, we only need a second number, right? And then we can create a numbered list that's counted by 10 to however many values we want. So this is a really quick way to make a repeating list, but that has a specific interval width. For practice 1C, we're going to create a numbered list that incorporates a mathematical equation. Okay, so in this case, we're going to say x plus 5 is our equation, where x is going to represent a cell reference for each iteration of the practice 1B column. So we'll start here. Whenever we want to input manually a equation of any kind, we always start by putting an equal sign. So Excel will either recognize that you're going, if you do equal sign and you start typing, it'll try to find a function that matches what you're typing. If you're putting in an equation, it's kind of a free-for-all. So if we're doing something that is x plus 5, where x is a cell reference, what I can do instead of putting x is I can just click on the cell reference that I want in place of x. Right, so now we're going to say this is cell D6, and I want whatever's in D6 plus 5. Okay, and 0 plus 5 should be 5. That's fantastic. From here, what we can do is we can just click and drag this formula and create very quickly a list that adds 5 to each of the iterations from this list. Why does it do that? When you copy downwards, the cell reference goes down. So if you bring your attention to this function bar up here, we have D6, right? The next cell reference, if we want to do the next iteration of practice 1B and add 5 to that, should be D7, which we can confirm, right? And then D8, D9, D10, okay? One way you can double check which cell reference is being referenced in your equation is if you double click on a cell, right? And we can see this little blue box shows up. So when we were talking about different cursors, this is a perfect example of when the resizing tool might show up. So that cursor should look a little bit familiar. And then also the hand tool, right? So if I wanted to move this cell reference around, I could. If I wanted to resize it, I could, right? We're only interested in doing one cell reference to match an iteration from the practice 1B exercise, but more or less these are 3 different ways that we can quickly create numbered lists, right? Either repeating a number, repeating a pattern that has a specific interval, or repeating a pattern that incorporates a cell reference. So I have some helpful tips in here that you can review on your own, but using these examples, you'll answer the questions in the answer sheet related to this practice 1 spreadsheet. And then we'll skip to practice number 2 in the next video.